Hey, this is Nigel Good. I wanted to make this really quick tutorial video here to show you just a strategy to use Razor and use it to get a really thick sounding, rumbly, kind of a Reese bass kind of sound that is very, it's got a lot of character to it because it's not repetitive. It's not like you know, you have a couple oscillators and you detune them. It's a little bit more interesting to listen to, and I want to show you how that could work in a drum and bass song, and I want to show you how you can take just what you have, the foundation, and create something on top of that using, you know, some layers so that it really sounds really full. So what I'm going to do for you right now is I'm just going to delete my whole bass bus here, and this little Razor bass helper, I'll show you what that's doing in a little while, because I'm going to recreate it for you right now. So just to show you what this track sounds like right now without any bass, it sounds something like this. So of course it needs some bass, and the track is actually in a place right now that the notation for the bass can really be anything as long as it's within the scale. You can have lots of fun kind of coming up with a chord progression, things like that. Of course there's the percussion, and then this is just a little thing giving it a little bit of I guess a little bit of melody, but not really, in the sense that the note doesn't really change around, but it gives it some nice atmosphere. And then in the instrument section, I just have a couple different kind of hits. And this is just a little melody that's going to molecular, so this kind of sounds, this gives it a lot of ambience here. Just to add some variation. So all this stuff is happening, oh sorry, as well as a couple pads. There's a couple pads here. And I made these pads using the same strategy that I had used in another tutorial video that I have. You can look on my channel. It's called Mega Pads. So let's make some bass, and we're going to use Razor, and I'm just going to make a new bus for my bass here. And Razor, if you're not familiar, it's a reactor ensemble, so it works within Reactor. So you have Reactor, and then you get Razor separately from Reactor, and it's an additive synth. It's my favorite bass machine. And when you go to, you know, just the plain patch here, doesn't sound like anything special, but there's an effect module in this synthesizer that is just incredible. So let's remember that the bass sound that I want is going to be monophonic. And I do want there to be a bit of glide to it as well. So I'm going to start and just do a little chord progression here. Just make sure I'm in the right key. Okay, so we're in E minor. And just go down, bring it down an octave, just so the range of my keyboard is good. And here we go. Let's try to make just a little melody. Just gonna quantize it. And what I'm going to do is just, there's a little legato feature so that it just snaps the end of the note to the beginning of the previous note. And the only notes that I wanted to glide were these two. So let's do that. And, oops. And that's perfect. And in Razor now, I'm just going to set the amplitude envelope so that there's a bit more release. And this is just a sawtooth waveform here, and the most important thing for this sound that I'm going to create here is this reverb module, this sync to reverb, and it's a really special sound. And if I just turn the wetness of this all the way up, I just turned it on, and it sounds something like this. Just going to turn it down another octave here. And let's just loop that out. So I'm going to use a low-pass filter here, no resonance, so sounds something like this when I bring it down. Because I really want, I don't want all the high-end content there. I just want the low stuff. And we'll just get a little variation on that cutoff. If I use a modulator, I'll just use the first LFO, and there's one of these shapes is kind of a random smooth shape here, and it looks something like that. And so if I just give a little bit to the first LFO to the cutoff knob, it will sound like this. So I want a bit of variation, but I don't want too much, really. And this is just one oscillator. It's just a sawtooth oscillator here. Another effect here in Razor that really can bring the sound out is the dirty limiter. The saturator works really nicely too, but this limiter here, if I just turn it on, and I'm driving the signal now, and the dirt probably has something to do with the distortion that it puts in, sounds something like this. So it's getting there, but it's not quite there yet. So before we go anywhere, I'm just going to put it in the bass bus here. I'm going to send the bass here so that it is getting side chained. And I actually want this to go to mono. So I'm actually going to take the whole thing and just totally destroy the width of this. And we'll actually bring the width back in another way. So I'm just going to take the width away. You can play with some of the settings. For example, if I really drive the limiter, sounds something like that. There's in Reactor, you can download this little wave shaper that I like to use, and this just adds a little bit more grit. So it sounds something like this here. You can already hear now this bass sound is a little too much. It's a little too loud. So I'm going to tone it down a little bit. I'm going to put an EQ on just to remove everything after about 30 hertz. Perfect. And what I'm going to do now is in the same bus, I'm going to add this other little reactor effect. This one is a free download as well by Bosco Mac. It's called Magnitude. And if I just take the limiter off there, turn everything down, wetness all the way up, let's just see what that does to the sound as I turn up the tube saturation here. So it just makes it even just a little bit bigger. I don't know too much about what's going on inside this. I just know that I really like the sound of this plugin, this ensemble here for reactors. So I said that I would show you kind of how to widen up and layer this bass sound now. So that's what we'll do next. So I'm going to take this this bass sound that I have, and I'm going to duplicate it. And I'm just going to sell the duplicated version. But the duplicated version, I'm going to take off the reduction in width. I'm going to take off the wave shaper, and I'm going to high pass it a lot higher up because I don't really want any of the sub frequencies here. And just to make give it a bit more variation, I'm going to change the oscillator type. In Razor, I really like the formant oscillator. So let's do that. Let's go to formant here, and let's see how we can make this sound a little bit more interesting. I'm just going to kind of tinker with Razor to make this sound a little bit better. And I'll just bring back everything here. A little convolution reverb that I'm going to pass the stereo version of the sound to. I'm just going to give it a bit of this this convolution reverb, which is just in Guitar Rig. It's just the reflector. So this is what it sounds like when I do that. This is it's got the same pitch as the main bass sound, but if I turn it up an octave, I think it's a little bit better. And you can even duplicate the stereo that you have here and kind of bump it up a fifth, so that's 7 semitones here, and get a cool sound with that too. So the benefit to doing it this way is that the the way that these notes are behaving with the glide, it's all in sync. So it's all gliding at the same rate, essentially. So which is nice. And I'll just add a bit of variation by taking the bass sound and automating that cutoff knob a little bit. Copy that automation to the other instances of this sound to get the filter of these other versions of the sound to match. I just turned the high end of that filter down just a little bit because I felt like it was just coming in a little bit too much for those the higher melodies that were playing along with the bass. So I can hear that it's not quite there yet in the sense that it's not mixed perfectly with the track yet. You can do all kinds of different things to try to get the side chaining right. A little bit of EQing would probably go a long way with this bass in terms of just making sure that it's nice across a few different systems. I'm listening right now on M50, so it sounds okay on here, but I can tell it might be a little bit too bassy. It might overpower the kick a little bit, and the kick might not be tuned with this bass. So there's all kinds of different considerations that you need to make. But as for making the sound itself, as you can see in Reactor, this is a pretty simple sound to make. A pretty quick little tip there. I hope you found that useful, and good luck.